Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon. Today we're going to go over how to play Caverna from a very high level overview. So this video is designed for people who are about ready to go play Caverna with other people who already know how to play and can explain the rules further. This is just to help you get your foot in the door and be able to understand what you're doing from the very beginning. So Caverna is a worker placement game, a very standard, they use the standard worker placement rules. Your workers are these flat wooden discs here, and we'll talk about why they're just flat discs in a minute. But your objective is to, on your board, populate your cavern, which is on the right side of the board here, excavate it out, and then furnish it with dwellings and rooms and things like that, as well as, increase the population of your dwelling, get more dwarves, make babies, yada, yada. Also on the left side of your board here is this forest clearing. You need to clear the trees away from the forest and then either plant crops or raise farm animals in that clearing. So right side here is essentially your farmhouse, left side is your farm. But since we're dwarves, we're cave farmers, things are going to look a little differently. All right, standard worker placement rules means that on your turn, you're going to take one of your discs and you're going to place it on one of these spots. That spot, you then take that action, and no one else can take that action for the remainder of the round. A round lasts until everybody has placed out all of their workers. So at the beginning of the game, a round is very short because everybody only starts with 2 workers. But as the game goes along, the very first round, we would flip over one card here. And these are somewhat randomized, but also they are seated in a way that, cards that are meant to come out near the end of the game will come out near the end of the game. But so this board is going to continue to be populated with additional spaces to take actions, additional choices throughout the game. And there's 12 rounds to the game. So you can see that here. Once the 12th round is over, you add up your score. So I'll just leave that up there for now. So not only are we going to have more and more options throughout the game, but there are going to be times where we can wish for children. Starting in round 4, we can actually go there to wish for children, which will allow you to gain up to 3 more workers. So all of this is very self-explanatory. I'm not going to go over every single space. Most of the iconography is pretty simple. For example, plus and then a picture means you're gaining something. Here, like excavation, means that you can excavate your dwelling, your cave, and you would simply pick up either this tile or this tile, and they're double-sided, depending on whether you want 2 rooms that you have to fill, or do you just want a hallway and a room. But both will fit in there, and there's doubles of these and there's singles of these. Same thing goes for the clearing tiles here. There's lots of different options, but they're all double-sided. For example, here you have a clearing with a fence and then a clearing that you can plant crops on. On the other side, it's just an open clearing and a clearing that you can plant crops on. So some of these, this is more expensive, harder to obtain, and it also comes with 2 victory points. Once you have some open space in your cavern, then you can start adding these rooms, which are over here off to the side. This setup here is for a beginner game. On the flip side of all of these boards is more spaces for even more rooms, because there are more options in the game, but they recommend you not starting out with that for your first time. But just know that each of these rooms is going to help you fill out your cave or your home, and they're going to give you certain benefits depending on what you may collect in there, what actions you take, may make certain actions more lucrative. The most important one is the actual dwelling here. So in order to have more children, you can house 2 dwarves in your entry-level dwelling right here, but in order to get more dwarves, you have to have more dwellings. So this dwelling here allows me to store 1 dwarf. If I want to have a 4th dwarf, I may have to eventually have a dwelling right there. Your dwarves have to be able to go back and have a room in your cave at the end of the day. So these dwelling tiles here. That's why there's a big stack of them, because there should always be one available for people. All right. So on your turn, you're sending out workers, you're taking the actions, and then at the end of a round, they're all going to clear back off. So this pawn here is very important, because if you want to make sure you have first choice of all of the action spaces at the beginning of a round, this is the first person marker, and then turn goes clockwise around the table. Going here not only grants you that first player marker, but it allows you to pay a food to get 2 ore. But that's how you can change the turn order. If nobody else claims it, this sticks with the person there. All right. Let's talk about now why our workers are just flat discs. Anytime you see a symbol like this that shows like a weapon and a shield, and they're going to be different looking, but essentially all be the same, that's an expedition you can go on. So if you go logging, and this one's, sorry, not pay a food, you would gain a food there. This one is logging here. You would be able to pick up all the wood in this space that is accumulated there, and then, or you could just go here and simply go on an expedition. And the 1 means that as long as you have a weapon of at least a strength of 1, like so, you can go on that expedition. Now, expeditions are very simple. There's no journal entry you have to read. There's no dice rolling or anything like that. Simply, if you have the weapon available, you would look here and you would simply say, after expedition, all weapons gain 1. So at level 1, I could gain either a wood or a dog. And as you grow up higher, you'll be able to take more and more options, but also you can gain more stuff. So at level 7, you could furnish your cavern, or if you really wanted a pumpkin, you could gain a pumpkin. It's up to you. But after you go on any expedition, you would simply, your weapon automatically upgrades like so, and there are ways to upgrade it faster than that. So just know that's why the discs are flat, so you can place a weapon on top and it stays with your dwarf like so. And you always want to keep up with upgrading it, because that's important. It's going to allow you to get better and better resources as you go on expeditions. The last card here that I want to talk about is your harvest time. And so this is important because during harvest times, which are at the end of a lot of rounds, you can see at the beginning of the game, you get a little break. But after that, then you're going to be taking harvests. So let's just populate some fields here and some spaces in our home. So first you would technically have to clear said area, and then we might have something that looks like this later on in the game with a dwarf in there, and maybe we'll have some 2 sheep right here, boom, and some pumpkins right here. Okay. So anytime you end a round, you have to go through the harvest phase. And this is important because this is when you get to gain your crops, your animals may breed, you also have to feed your dwarves. So during harvest time, if you have any crops in your fields, you would simply get the top one, and that would go into your personal supply. So I have been raising pumpkins. I now get to pick up a pumpkin and spend it, and I can use that pumpkin to feed my family later on down the road. Or, you know, you may have accumulated food tokens like these here. These are what you're going to use in the next step. You can either turn a pumpkin in your supply into food, or you can just use food tokens you have acquired, but every dwarf requires you to pay 2 food. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4 times 2 is 8 food I would need. Well, I only have 5 right here. I can't remember exactly what the trade ratio is, but I could trade in this pumpkin probably for 2 food. And then, oh, here I found 1 more food like that. So you would have to discard, return to the supply all of these food tokens and your pumpkin in order to feed your family. This is a big concept that you're going to see a lot in Uwe Rosenberg games. You always make sure you have to feed your family. You also note here that if you have just wished for children and that action has brought a child back, you actually only have to pay children one food per child. Also, last but not least, is the breeding phase. So anytime you have a pair of animals, they will breed and make a third animal. The only problem is that you have to have room for that animal. In this instance, a single field that is fenced in only allows me to house 2 animals of the same type. So this poor little sheep here, I would have had to have needed to have something like this available. Now at that point, I have some place to put my sheep. Have no fear, your dwelling, your entry-level dwelling, allows you to store a pair of the same animals in it, so you could also have done that. There's also going to be times where you can build your stable. Here you have 3 of them. Adding a stable allows you to double the amount of animals you can keep in one spot. So this large pen can hold up to 4 animals. So with a stable, it can hold up to 8. And this small pen, which can hold up to 2 animals, with a stable could hold 4. But that's the breeding phase. So the more pairings of animals you have, the better off your engine will be. Other than that, the decisions that you make from here on out are yours as long as these action spaces are available to you. You make your decisions, you take your actions in standard worker placement fashion, and at the end of the game, you will, for the most part, count up all of the victory points that are printed on your board. You get victory points for animals you have. You get negative victory points for any space that you have not excavated or filled here on your player board. So any space you didn't interact with is a negative point, and there's lots of furnishings and things like that that provide you victory points. There's a score pad in the game. Hopefully whoever is leading the game will help you go through scoring, but that is the basics for how to play Caverna. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Again, this is meant to be a high-level beginner's guide, a high-level overview of the game, not an in-depth how to play. So hopefully this was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.